Okay, hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. Okay, just kidding. But this is my very crunchy video about the ANOVA. I'm sure you guys already got the descriptive statistics. Just make sure to put your chart like this, because it's pretty much similar to what the other assignment we did. Like you put the groups on one side, and then the different factors that we did on the other top part right here, and then you list them all for each group. And then when you want to, the instructions inside the document he put on D2L, the first document, explain it pretty well. Like how you download the add-ins, and then you go to data right here and do, well, it's not on this computer right now, but I had it on my other computer. But let's see. Okay, so let's go to the ANOVA in Turkey, because just read the instructions for the descriptive statistics. You don't have to do the t-test and things like that, because he didn't say we have to. He said you only have to get mean right here and the sample variance right here. So as long as you get that, you're good. And then the only other thing we have to do is the ANOVA in Turkey. Now for the ANOVA, you have to structure the graphs differently. The idea for ANOVA is to see whether things are different enough between the factors, between the groups of one factor. So you cannot take 4 different factors in 4 different groups. You have to say, okay, these are 4 groups I'm analyzing. And then for the one factor we did, so one of the factors, for example, would be like temperature probe. And so that's for my first chart right here. It's temperature probe. So I put it for each group that did the temperatures. I put each of the 5 temperatures that they got for that. That's how you're supposed to structure it, because that's based on the same first assignment that we did. Now, if we go into that, and make sure to do all your graphs like this. So this is a chart right here for the, you have to do separate charts for each one. This is a chart right here for the relative humidity, and another one for the soil moisture and irradiance. So those are 4 different charts for each factor between the 4 groups. And so now, our goal right now is to see, is there any difference between group 1 and group 2, group 3 and group 4, etc. And so we use an ANOVA to see, okay, is it important to even see whether there's a difference? So we go to, if you have the add-ins, you go to, well, it actually says it on the second document. The point of this video is kind of just to explain the Turkey part, because that can be more confusing. But on the first document, if you go to part, one of the last parts, the ANOVA, when it's explaining ANOVA, basically when you get that add-in, I had a different computer before, that's why I could do it. Then you just press the entire thing. You press the add-in. You press the, what's it called? Like the data analysis button, and then you'll be able to press ANOVA single factor. He emailed me and said the email. He said only do a single factor. You can do a double a 2 factor, but that'll make it more complicated. And so he said it's okay to do single factor. And you just group the whole entire thing, and essentially it just spits it back out right here. You don't have to do any math. Now, when you get your ANOVA, this whole ANOVA right here, this part I'm circling right here, I even color coded it. This black ANOVA goes with this first graph, because it's only seeing the differences between the 4 groups on this factor. Now, you also have to do 3 other ANOVAs, because there's 3 other graphs. So if I scroll down right here, you'll see that there's a red graph, a green graph, a purple graph, because those go with the 4 different charts I got. And you just pretty much just click the buttons and it will spit it out for you. Now, for the Turkey part, which is pretty much what this video is about, you're going to take the ANOVA that you have. And first of all, the reason you have to do a Turkey test is to see that you have 4 different groups. And the ANOVA said right here, if you look at the p-value of this ANOVA, let me focus this. Okay, if you look at the p-value of the ANOVA, it's smaller, it's way smaller than 0.05. And when something's smaller than 0.05, it means it's significant. And so the point of the Turkey test is to see, okay, which groups is it significant amongst? Which differences, like the difference is found between which groups in particular? Is it found between only group 1 and group 4? Or is it between all the groups that they're significantly different from each other? But you can't tell if you have more than 2 groups. That's why when we have 4 groups, usually you're probably going to have to do a Turkey test. So you see right here that the p-value is smaller than 0.5. That means it's a go-ahead for the turkey test. And by the way, you're going to have to do a turkey test for all of these. All of these are way smaller than 0.05, except for one of them, but that's still lower than 0.05, but it's just not really, really small. Now, when we go for the turkey test, here's an example of a chart right here. Let's see. This is just an example of one chart. So when you look at the difference, first of all, for the turkey test, there's no button for this. You have to do it manually. But there are some like short, quick ways to make it easier for yourself. You put turkey HSD for the top line, you put a line over it, and then right here you list the groups, and you have to pair groups amongst each other. You remember how I said that? You have to see the differences between groups. And no, you won't be able to tell whether the difference comes from a difference between group 1 and group 2 unless you do it for every single thing. You have to test every single thing. So you do group 1 versus group 2, group 1 versus group 3, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, 2 versus 4, 3 versus 4. And that's all the combinations you can have for these groups that we have. Then for right here for difference, it means the difference between the means. And it said the third document on D2L, it actually explains this pretty well, but you just have to read it extremely slowly. And like this is the difference between the means. So right here, if I click on it, it's J8 minus J9. And if I go right here to my first ANOVA, by the way, each turkey test goes with each ANOVA. Okay, so you don't do one turkey test for the entire thing. You do one turkey test for each ANOVA that showed there was a significant difference. So here it is right here. You're supposed to subtract. So my groups are group 1 versus group 2. So you're supposed to subtract the average, the means of group 1 and group 1 versus group 2, and you'll never have a negative number. So you always take the higher number minus the lower number. So between group 1 and group 2, group 1 is higher. So you do you can just click on those things. Just put equal sign J8 minus J9, etc., and you'll get the difference between them. And you do that for every single one. You have to do it manually. You can't just drag and click because it doesn't know whether you're trying to do group 1 versus group 3. You have to be like equals and then go over here, which one's bigger, etc. Okay? But at least, it's not that bad. Now, when we go over to the SE, which is the standard error, you see it's the same for each one of them. If you go back to the document, let me click it real quick. Okay, here's the document. It gives you the equation for this. Now, you can be smart, type in the equation inside that thing. I didn't do that. I just did it manually with the calculator. I shouldn't have done that. But you just go in and you do MS error over N. Like it might be square root, and then you take the square root of that. You might be thinking, okay, what's MS error? MS error is the same thing as when you go over to your ANOVA that you just did for that particular chart. You go right here where it says within groups SS. This number right here is your MS error. Same exact number. And then you divide by N, which is 5. And then you take the square root of that. So it's going to be 4.26 divided by 5. And then you take the square root of that entire thing. And that'll give you this. Okay. And then all these will be the same. Now let's go over to Q. Q is just the difference. Q is just the difference divided by SE. Which is pretty easy. You can just, put it into here. And it's just P9 divided by PQ, and you got that answer. And then you can just scroll down this entire thing and make it apply to everything, as he showed us inside class. My thing's acting weird. Anyways, let me click out of this. Okay, well. Anyways, yeah, you guys should just know how to do that, okay? Yeah, okay. Now, when we get to Q critical, which is the Q 0.5 VK thing, you have to go back to the chart in the third document. That's why you have to read the third document. Put it actually have to use it. There's a chart inside there, and this is what he explains to the email. He said that let's see. He said that for the chart, for the turkey test, it's supposed to be on the vertical side of that chart inside the third document. You'll see there's a whole entire, there's this thing called V. And to calculate V, you do the total observations for that chart, the first chart, the black chart I showed you originally. And there's 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 and that equals 20. So, and you subtract that by the amount of groups there are, which is 4 groups. So 20 minus 4 equals 16. And so I go back over here to my chart. And here you go. On the V side, it says 16 right here. That's the number you'll get. Where's my mouse? Okay, it's 16 right here. And then for the top part, which is K or P, sorry, let me scroll up. This is too big of a number. Okay, so we still go to 16 right here. I don't know where my mouse is. Okay, and there it is. Okay, you go over to 16, and then we have K or P, and that's basically the amount of groups there, the amount of means you had. So how many means did we have to compare amongst each other? 4 means, right? You only had 4 different types of means. And so you put it over here, that's 4, and so the number should be 4.046. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I ask people, but I think they're just busy right now. So I'll get back to you if that's correct. Now let's go back over here. And so essentially just do that whole entire thing. And then if this Q number is bigger right here, if Q is bigger than Q critical, then you reject the null hypothesis. What is the null hypothesis? The null hypothesis is that there is no difference between these two groups. Okay, when I reject that null hypothesis, it means that yes, there's a difference between the temperature, the soil temperature of group 1 versus group 2. And that's something, yeah, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, sorry for the long video. Okay, bye guys.